Hey everybody, my name is Kim Urbanowski and I'm coming to you from my kitchen. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of comfort food. I'm sure that many of you are stuck inside with your families and maybe you have not so many things to choose from to make dinner with, and I am in the same position. And so I kind of put a call out the other day to my friends on Facebook and I said, I'm kind of struggling and I want to know what you want to see. And so based on what you guys said, I chose something to talk about. We've had, a rough week just like you guys have. I wanted to do this yesterday. I wanted to do this video live yesterday, but I was feeling a little down. Lee and I were sort of, kind of hanging out and doing whatever it was that we could do to make ourselves feel better. We didn't have great news yesterday. Lee's been laid off for a little bit, which is why we're doing this video now, because suddenly he has some time. So here we are making a video. It's going to be awesome. But we're trying to think about what we can do as a family to feed ourselves with what we've got and be economical about it. And I do want to point out, yes, I know my shirt says cooking is cheaper than therapy, which maybe 2 weeks ago would have been true. Maybe not so much today, but cooking is actually my therapy. So we're just going to go with that. With that, I'm going to put on my handy dandy apron, because I don't cook without an apron ever. My girls can tell you. I don't ever cook without an apron because I love to collect aprons. Aprons make me feel comfortable in the kitchen. This is one that I was inspired to buy after watching some videos on Bon Appetit. They all have these beautiful linen aprons and I love them. So this makes me feel cozy in the kitchen, and that's why I'm wearing it. But today we're going to talk about something that I used to eat a lot as a kid. And I did talk about this a little bit in my Facebook post the other day, that I came from, a Navy family, and my mom raised us as a single mom sometimes when my dad was out to sea. And, I think I remember correctly that maybe they used to get paid once a month. And so by the end of the month, we were always kind of struggling and scraping and trying to see what we could eat. And we did have something called Kool-Aid pancakes back in the day. And that was basically pancake mix with a little bit of Kool-Aid mixed in, because maybe we didn't have syrup or anything to make it sweeter. So we're not going to go quite that route today, but what I am going to do is talk about things that I do actually on a normal basis every day, and then we're going to talk about how to elevate it and make it a little more fun. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that I posted on my blog recently, and that is how to make a really good chicken stock. Now, I don't know if you guys have one of these at home, but this is what I used, my Instant Pot. And I put up a recipe yesterday, and I'll link it, underneath this video so that you can see it as well. But what I did was I started with 2 packages of chicken legs, which was about 3 pounds of chicken. And I knew that I wanted to pull the chicken off and use it for something else, which is what we're going to use today. I have some of it here. Here's the chicken that I used. But I have this wonderful bag, and I call it my bits and pieces bag, and it might look a little ragged, but I'll be nervous about the day that I have to get rid of it and start a new one. But this is my bits and pieces bag, and I don't know if you can see, but inside I keep ends of onions and carrot shavings and the tops of celeries and things like that, and a little bit of parsley, because I'll show you my parsley here. This is my parsley, and if you recognize this glass, totally say something in the comments, please. I really want to know if anybody recognizes this glass. But anyway, so you can see that some of this parsley is probably gonna go bad soon. So I'll probably take this and stick it into my bits and pieces bag and put it in the freezer and use it later. So I made a chicken stock. I pulled the meat off, and I continued to choose to cook that chicken stock down, and that's the basis of what we're going to do today with this chicken pot pie, which is one of my favorite things from when I was a kid. Raise your hand if you ever ate Swanson chicken pot pies, because those suckers were pretty inexpensive and kind of a treat when I was a kid. So we're gonna make a grown-up version with what we've got. So if you don't have the stuff to make chicken stock, I'm sure that you probably have this on hand as well. We're going to use about 3 cups of chicken stock in this. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, and there's the bits and pieces. We'll throw this aside back here with our Instant Pot. The first thing I wanted to kind of talk about was in a pot pie, in my memory, because I really haven't had one frozen in a long time, but I think there were potatoes in there. I'm pretty sure there were potatoes in there. And I had this little bag of Petite Gold Gourmet potatoes that I bought about a week and a half ago, I think. And I knew they were gonna start turning green and get a little funky, so I went ahead and cooked up some of these. Now, this is how big they are, like this little bag. And then I cooked them up, and they are these tiny little pieces. So, you know, for something like this, I would take this, and I don't know if you can see this. Here, let me move this. I just I cut them in half this way, and then like this and this. So you basically are getting 8 tiny pieces out of these itty bitty potatoes. This bag was 1.5 pounds, minus these little guys here, but I put them into a little bit of salted water, and I turned it up, and when it started to boil, I turned it down to a simmer and cooked it for 5 minutes. I didn't want to cook them too much, but I do want to cook them because if you're going to put them into a pot pie, you don't want to put them in raw, because then you're going to be chewing on some really crunchy bits of potato. So I just kind of gave them a little bit of a, I'm going to eat one. They're so good. So there was like a pot of water, 2 teaspoons of salt, and brought them to boil, 5 minutes, strained them. This is not the whole bag. This is about a cup and a half. The other cup and a half that I got out of that, I'm gonna save for something else, probably like a frittata. And I'll post about that as well. But that's what I started with, some potatoes. And then carrots. So I have 2 carrots. This is one. And then I kind of wanted to show you how I do these. And because we want everything to be about the same size. And we're going to cook these carrots actually in some butter before we put them into the sauce. But I just kind of take these carrots and cut them in half, and then cut them again. So these nice little carrot sticks like this. And then just kind of do them in uniform pieces like this. And then set those aside. So in addition to the potatoes that we kind of, you know, par cooked a little bit earlier, and the carrots that I just cut, the other thing I have in my freezer is some frozen corn and frozen peas. And it's about half a cup of each one of these. I know I'm giving you measurements, but reality is you might have just kind of bits and pieces left in your freezer. So whatever you feel in terms of vegetables that you want to go into your pot pie, that's fine. I mean, green beans, if you have frozen green beans, that would be totally cool, or even fresh. So whatever you want to put in terms of vegetables in there, just have like, I don't know, there's probably a good, you know, 3 cups of stuff here. And then there's also, like I said, 3 cups of this chicken. So these are all chicken legs. And what I'm going to do before we get started on our sauce is put all of this into a bowl and get it mixed up. And then, so there's my corn and peas. Don't know why I always turn Southern all of a sudden. You guys know I did live in North Carolina for 5 years, right? And this is a shout out to my friend Lynn and her sister Kara and her dad Elmer, and of course Wayne, who called me out the other day on my other video for being a little Southern in there. So that might happen once in a while, and I'm not apologizing for it. So this is peas and corn and potatoes, and then I'm going to take this chicken, because we don't want these big honking bits of chicken in here. So I'm just going to kind of chop these up a little bit. It's about 3 cups, like I said, and this is all chicken legs. Now, when you're making your stock, if you want to use other pieces of meat, that's totally fine. If you have bone-in chicken breast or thighs or wings, all totally great. And if you end up with more than 3 cups of chicken, you can put that in there as well. So this is, like I said, about 3 cups of cooked chicken. Whatever you've got on hand is totally fine. I honestly would normally make this with chicken breast, but like I said, since I had chicken legs, that's great. And you know, chicken legs are awesome because one, they're economical, and two, they're dark meat. So there's extra flavor in there, and they're really, like, I think I paid, I don't know, oh, it was like $6 or $7 maybe for essentially 10 chicken legs. And it turned out to be 6 cups of chicken stock. So it was well worth it.
Recording there and go.
Urban Gourmet Cooking Show. Scene 4. Scene 4, take 1.
Okay, so now that we've got the majority of the filling for our pot pie ready, the next thing that we need to do is saute these carrots up and get them a little bit soft. We're gonna create a roux. Then we're gonna stir in our homemade or boxed chicken stock, whichever you like. And then we're gonna add a couple more ingredients to it. We're gonna thicken it up. We're gonna mix it all together and put it into a pie crust and bake it until it's delicious and golden and yummy. Okay, so now that we have the majority of our filling for the pot pie, the next thing I'm gonna do is make the sauce. And so the first thing we're gonna start with is these carrots, because remember I said we wanna get them a little bit soft. We don't just wanna cook them from raw in the sauce because it's not gonna be soft enough to bite. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to saute these in a little bit of some fat. And one of the things that I talked about in my blog is the use of the fat that kind of floats to the top of the chicken stock. It might sound kind of weird. So now that we have the majority of the filling ready to go for this pot pie, we're gonna take these carrots, because remember I said we wanna saute them a little bit to get them a little soft, just like we did with the potatoes in the water. They will not cook all the way down when they're being baked. So we wanna give them a little head start. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run over here and we're gonna talk about the rest of the sauce. And so some of the things that are gonna go into that are gonna be these carrots, of course. I'm gonna saute them in a little bit of butter and some actually some chicken fat, and I want to talk about that for like a hot second. So this is some chicken fat that I scraped off of the top of the stock that I made the other day. And I know that might sound a little strange, but here's the deal. It tastes really good because it's chicken fat. And it's also economical because we might be running out of olive oil or, you know, butter or whatever it is that you're using, or ghee. But this is a really nice alternative, and it's just going to add flavor back in. So I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of this chicken fat that I took from the top of my chicken stock, as well as some butter. We're going to use some some flour, and we're going to make a roux out of it. We're going to season it up with a little bit of marjoram and some thyme, but the liquid part of it is going to be our chicken stock, a little bit of white wine that was left in my fridge. This is not a drinking wine for me. I mean, it would be if it were in a bigger box, but I usually buy these for cooking, and this is a good one. It's a Pinot Grigio, so I'm gonna add a little bit of flavor to my sauce with this, and then a little bit of milk as well. So that's what's gonna go into the sauce. And so when we're done making that, we're gonna combine that with the other bits that we just talked about. We're gonna throw a little parsley in there, and then we're gonna put it into a pie shell, stick it in the oven, and bake it until it's bubbly and golden and delicious. Okay, so in order to make the sauce, the first thing we need to do is melt the fat. And remember I talked about this chicken fat. I know, don't get freaked out. There's a little bit of stock in there, but it's okay. So there's the chicken fat, and then I'm gonna stick a little bit of butter in here, and we're gonna get that warmed up. It's about medium-high heat. I sauteed some carrots, in the chicken fat that we talked about earlier, and a little bit of butter, and then I added some flour to it. There's a little bit of marjoram. I think it's about like a teaspoon. Marjoram is delicious. I know that you people have that in your pantry, or some of you, and you're probably like, why do I have this in my pantry? Well, you were waiting for this. This is what you were waiting for. This is your moment, people. Use the marjoram. So I'm cooking this for a bit. And you can see it's getting kind of Like you can see the shimmering happening around here because that butter and the flour is kind of mixing together. And this is what's going to make, this is the roux. And then that's what's going to thicken our sauce. So the first thing I want to do is take my mommy juice box. So the next thing I want to do is take my mommy juice box right here. And I'm just going to pour that in there. Woo! Sizzle girl. Oh yeah. See how that started to thicken like right away? That's exactly what we want. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this delicious, look at this. Oh my God. You see how like gooey and gelatinous that is? That's going to be, ugh, I can't even talk about it. How delicious that's going to be. That's what happens when you make homemade chicken stock with a lot of like chicken legs and things like that. It's got all that gelatin in it and it makes it nice and gooey and yummy and ridiculous. So I'm just going to keep stirring this around and then you'll see it'll start to thicken and then it's going to create like this really awesome gravy that we're going to mix into the ingredients that we talked about earlier. We'll put all this food in. So I've been simmering this for a bit. You can see that it's getting thicker because you can see up here, there's this line right here. That's where it started. So it's kind of like reducing down and getting a little thicker. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it down a bit. Now I'm going to add some milk, but I'm going to keep stirring while I'm doing it. And here's the thing, there is flour in here, so it will help prevent any kind of like, you know, clumping that might happen. But I'm adding some milk and making it a little bit on the richer side because, I mean, it's comfort food, so that's what you want. And I'm turning it back up after I added it, and we're going to keep reducing it down a little bit now that we've got that milk in there. You can see like it's starting to kind of get real thick. And once we add it to the filling items, it's going to be even better. Because we got the potatoes in there, which is going to add a little bit of starch while we're baking it. So, and then, you know, the chicken's going to soak up the juice and the sauce and all those vegetables and all that good stuff. So we're going to cook this for, I don't know, maybe another 5 to 8 minutes. But now that we've got milk in it, you want to keep stirring it as much as possible. And yes, you are seeing a little bit of thyme branches in there. I did add some thyme in addition to the marjoram, and I did salt it and pepper it a little bit too. So you can keep checking the seasonings too while you're going. Okay, so here we go. We had a couple different steps. We had the cooking of the potato steps. We had the making of the filling step, which is here. And then we just did the sauce, which is here with the carrots in it and the stock and the milk and the marjoram and the thyme and all those really good things. So I'm just getting so excited. It's so hungry. And I'm not cleaning the kitchen. Kids are. Just saying. So what I want to do now is pour the sauce. The sauce is the best part ever. All right, pour the sauce into the filling. Kitchen. And then remember I had some of that parsley that looked a little suspect that I thought maybe was probably gonna die soon. I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in too, just because it's more color and it's got a fresh taste and it's delicious and it'll make you feel good about yourself. So there's the filling. Oh my God, guys. And I'm actually really doing this just from the hip. So I'm hoping that it's gonna fit into this deep dish pie, dish. So I'm not a baker, and I'm not a fan of making homemade pie shells or pie dough. So I did have two, like we talked about, two of them. I'm gonna put one on the bottom, and I'm gonna put one on the top, and I'm gonna attempt to make it look really, really pretty. But we'll see how that works. So here we go. So there goes the, it's gonna, oh, I don't know if it's all gonna go in there. It did. Oh my God, it went in there. I'm so excited. This is the biggest Swanson pot pie I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I'm so excited. All right, so there it is. That's what it looks like in the shell. You just kind of, you know, like zhuzh it around a little bit and make sure. Okay. All right, guys. So here's the final piece before we pop it in the oven. Is we're gonna take another pie crust and plunk it down on top. And I'm gonna fold it under and try and seal this sucker up as best I can. So I'm taking it and like folding it under the bottom part, and I'm hoping for the best. But either way, it's probably gonna be delicious. So if it's not like Pinterest worthy or, you know, Insta worthy, it is what it is. It's gonna taste good. So I'm folding it under. Here we go. Sealing these suckers together. You could probably at the end of this use an egg wash to make it all, you know, really super cool on the top, but rather than use an egg wash, I'm not gonna do that just because I'd rather use an egg to make something else except for outside of this. Okay, so, oh, God, okay. So we gotta vent it a little bit. So I'm gonna make a couple, like 4 little, you know what I really wish I had was one of those little bird things. They have those little bird ceramic things that stick out of the top and it lets the heat out or the steam out. That would be so cute. My birthday's coming up. I could use one of those. I want to make like little one here, little one here, little one here, little one here. Okay, so here we go, guys. This is going in the oven. I've got it at 400 degrees. I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna check it in about 30 minutes and see what's going on with it. But there it is. There's a filling for a pot pie, and we'll see how this goes in a couple minutes. Okay, guys. Well, it's been 45 minutes. I originally gave it 30 and I wanted to see how it would go, but I let it go another 15 and we've been sitting here for a bit. So here's the finished product. It's very hard to see probably. Still a little warm to the touch, but you know, I don't have feeling in my fingers anymore, so I'm going to cut into it a little bit and see what happens and serve this up to my family. It is just about dinner time, so let's see how this goes. Oh my gosh. There's all the sauce in the middle. Okay, well there you go. Got carrots and potatoes and peas and corn and chicken and a little bit of, you know, the pie crust on the bottom there. Seasonings, it smells really good. Again, use what you've got. Green beans would be great in here. Use what you have. I hope that you feel inspired to try something from your pantry and enjoy a meal with your family during this time. I'm missing you, and let's get through this and see each other soon. Okay? Happy dinner.